Hi, welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make Mexican red rice. And it's not a perfect science. And I'm sorry I can't project the recipe, but if you really want the recipe, I will be happy to get you a copy of it. So we're going to make Mexican rice. This is a recipe that my mom's been making pretty much my whole life. And as a kid, I just loved it. And when my kids were all little, my brother came up to visit and he babysat him for a little bit, and he loves to cook. And so he made that rice and my kids loved it. And I didn't know how to make it. I mean, I should have, but I didn't. So I said, Hector, you've got to show me how to make this rice. And so he did. He taught me, and he says, the secret is how you toast the rice. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So rice, typically you need like 1 part rice to 2, sorry, it's 1 part rice to 2 parts water. So I'm actually going to do 2 cups of long grain white rice. And I usually use that. That's my favorite kind of rice to use. So I'm going to switch cameras and show you what I'm doing here. Oh, wait, before that, though, I'm going to show you a few things that we're going to be using. So we need oil, rice. You can use fresh onion and fresh garlic. If you don't feel like chopping up an onion, you don't have to. You can just throw in some onion powder or diced garlic that you can get from like a jar like this. And then also for the liquid, I use 1 can of tomato sauce. It can be any brand. This one's the 8 ounce. And then you're going to use 3 cups of water. And so usually you would use, if you don't use tomato sauce, it would have been 4 cups of water because I'm making 2 cups of rice. So the other thing I use, you can use chicken broth. But I use this stuff. This is called Knorr. It's like a chicken bouillon. Only problem with that stuff for some people is that it does have MSG, but you can also use like these better than bouillon type things. Doesn't have to be real nice fresh broth. So I am gonna start toasting my rice and probably about 2 or 3 tablespoons of oil. So I'm going to switch cameras here so that you can see what I'm doing on my stove. So here's my, oh, my pan is way too hot. I can see it steaming. Sorry about that. Oh, I got distracted when I was setting up all my ingredients. So I'm going to put my rice in. Oh my goodness, I hope it turns out, you guys. I'm going to put all this rice in. This is 2 cups. And I'm going to stir it. It's kind of hard to see it. It's kind of glaring, but we want it to get kind of toasted, golden brown. And unfortunately, my pan is kind of hot, so it's a little more than golden brown on the edges, but that's okay. But this really is the secret of this Mexican rice, because by toasting the rice like this, you're actually making it so that it expands and it becomes fluffy. And so let's toast it. Usually, I don't know, sometimes it can take about 5 minutes. I'm actually using a little bit of a different pan than I normally do because I just wanted it to look bigger, like in a bigger pan. But so I hope you guys all love rice, because I know most people do. And every time I've made this recipe, people are like, oh my gosh, that was so good. You really need to give me the recipe. And I usually say, well, guess what? It's not necessarily the recipe that is, oh shoot, sorry, I just turned off my camera. Start video. I usually tell people that it's not necessarily the recipe, that it's kind of this technique of this toasting of the rice. So I'm going to toast the rice for just a sec here. So when I go back to my pan, hopefully it will be ready. So after this is done, I'm going to actually add some onion now. And let's hope that you can see it. So I'm going to put in the onion, and it's a good thing I didn't put the onion in sooner, otherwise it would have burned. So I just had some chopped onion. It's probably about a 1/4 cup. And then I'm going to add 1 clove of chopped garlic. And again, on that, you could do the diced garlic out of the jar. And so I'm going to cook it a little bit longer here. And next, so the other things we're going to be putting in is going to be the tomato sauce. So I'm going to start adding that in just a sec here. So here goes my tomato sauce. And then we're going to put in all that tomato sauce and mix it up so all the rice is covered. And then I'm going to actually pour a little bit of the water from that I measured out into my can so I can wash out the rest of the tomato sauce so that I'm not wasting any of it, and I make sure that I have enough liquid. So I'm going to pour a little bit of that in there. So yeah, thanks for being here. I never get to talk to anybody when I make this rice. And if anybody would like to try this, I'm happy to bring some over to your house at the end of this activity, because I'm going to have a bunch of food that I probably won't be able to eat. So I'm just kind of rinsing out the can with the water that I got from the tomato, or from the extra water. So now I'm going to add the rest of the water, and you want to add warm water so that you don't cool down your pan too much. Okay, so then at this point, you can, if you had used chicken broth, you could have just poured it in at that point, but I'm going to use that Knorr seasoning chicken broth powder and just kind of mix it up. And I want to bring it to a little bit of a boil. And then I'm going to add about usually like about a half cup of mixed vegetables, or I have peas and carrots, and those just make it look really cute and festive. And at this point too, you can taste it. You can taste the liquid to see if it's salty enough for you. If it's not, then you can add extra salt. If it's perfect, then at that point you can just leave it like that. So you want to turn it up. I'm probably at about a medium heat here. Okay, so this is it here. Once it kind of starts bubbling, I am going to, once it starts bubbling, I'm going to cover it up and I'm going to cook it for 20 minutes. So I'm going to kind of let it bubble there for a sec. And I'm going to show you next how to spice up just a plain old boring can of refried beans, because sometimes I feel like the beans in a can are so thick. So let me just grab the beans I have right here. So these are just the refried beans. And okay, so the rice, I kind of paused the video for a minute and now it's starting to bubble, and I'm gonna put it on the lowest heat. I actually have a gas stove, so just do whatever heat you have. I don't know if it's the same on an electric, but I'm gonna show you how it's bubbling. Ooh, and it's upside down. Oops. I'm sorry, I don't know how to change that, but it's bubbling. So now I'm gonna put it on the lowest heat on the back burner, because that's my smallest burner, and I'm going to cover it up with the lid, wherever that lid went. So I'm going to cover up my rice and I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes. And there that goes. So here is my pot for the beans. I'm going to show you how to spice up a boring can of refried beans. It really doesn't matter what kind of beans, like the brand refried beans. However, if you've ever tried Goya brand, those beans are the best and amazing. They're a little bit more expensive, but they might be worth it. So this is the Goya. Oh my goodness, everything's upside down. So I actually used just regular store brand beans. No, they were actually Trader Joe's. And so I'm gonna also add 1 can of just pinto beans. So this is gonna make quite a bit. So I'm gonna just dump those in. And the reason I came up with this recipe, like I've never seen anyone else make this before, but I always felt like the refried beans out of a can were really runny. So now I'm going to add a can of diced tomatoes, and you can use the bigger ones. I'm using the petite diced. Those are petite diced. And so now I am going to stir those up a little bit here. And there's some things you can add to it spice wise, and it just depends on your taste, like what you like. And the liquid from the tomatoes actually makes it have a little bit more liquid, so they're not super thick. And if you happen to be on WW or Weight Watchers, this is going to be 0 points for a serving of probably like half to 1 cup. So it's super healthy. And I'm gonna now add, I'm gonna add a little bit of diced onion because I had a little bit left over from my rice. And you don't have to add that. It's just if you happen to have it on hand, you can kind of just throw it in. And then I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of chili powder. And this is about a teaspoon of cumin. If you don't really, sometimes cumin can be kind of strong. And so you can add less. You can kind of do it to taste. And it's up to you if you want to add salt. I'm not going to add any because canned beans usually have enough salt. So if you happen to not have, so I'm just going to let those warm up, and these are pretty much ready. You just need to warm them up for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. You can cover them up if you want. So those go really, really amazing with, they go great with the rice. And then if you want to make enchiladas, or you could even just like put it in a tortilla, or you could make a tostada with like a crisp, crunchy kind of shell. Not the shells, the ones like tacos, but the flat ones. If you don't want to use diced onion, you can also just use onion powder. And then this was the cumin I used. And then if you don't have fresh garlic, you could use garlic powder as well, which I actually just forgot to add. So I'm going to take a little break until the rice is done and come back and show you what that looks like. All right, so my beans are now bubbling. They've been cooking for probably 5 to 8 minutes. There's really no science. You just want to see, this looks pretty good here. They will, like, if you don't like them this runny, you could squeeze out the water from the diced tomatoes a little bit more. And then once you turn them off and they start to cool down, they're going to thicken up a little. So I'm actually just going to cover them up with a lid and let them sit there for a little while. And then I will be back to show you how the rice is doing when it's done. Okay, so I've got just a few minutes before the rice is done, and I am so excited. I'm going to maybe show you a couple tips on what you could do with the beans and rice. You could serve them with the guacamole and salsa that Tammy's shown you how to make. You could put it on a whole bunch of corn, like tortilla chips, like this. Tortilla chips, if you can see those. Just put beans on top, rice, and then you can add some salsa, guacamole, sour cream, things like that. Sometimes for the rice, I actually just make a rice bowl. So I'll get some rice and I'll throw on more veggies, maybe chop up a tomato and some more fresh vegetables. There's my rice. Yay, it's done. I'm so excited. I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's cooked. And the pot that I used to cook my rice in, it's really wide. It's more of a pan. You can do it in a taller kind of like pot if you want. I just wanted it to be here just because it's a bigger, wider surface. Okay, so here we go. There's the finished, almost finished product. So you are going to get a little bit of sauce on the edges. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of mix the sauce in a little bit, and it's still a little bit wet. And I'm going to just mix it in so it's kind of incorporated into the rice and it's not all on the edges. And then I'm going to cover up the rice. You can kind of mix it. And I'm going to cover it up for about 10 minutes. And that way it kind of cooks a little bit more, and then you're going to get it a little bit more fluffy. So I'll come back in about 10 minutes to show you what that looks like. All right, so there's some kind of nachos. You could put beans on it. And now I'm going to show you what to do with the rice now that it's ready. So it's all steamy in there and it's still kind of steaming. I've found though that it actually is going to evaporate. It kind of evaporates a lot of the liquid after you put it back into the bowl. And then it's just going to kind of sit there before you serve it. And you want to kind of fluff it up a little bit. And there it goes. It's a little still wet, but it's going to keep evaporating. So it's pretty hot. So you want to just kind of stir it and give it some time. Usually I don't serve it right away because I want it to evaporate a little bit more. So there we have it. There's our red rice. It kind of looks yellow in this video, but it's going to be great. And if you would like to try it, this rice, feel free to text me or call me and I will bring you some to your house. Thank you so much for watching my video. And I hope that you learned how to make this rice and realize it's not as hard as you think. And if you'd like the recipe, I can get that to you, or I could put it in the notes of the YouTube video link that we're watching this video on. So, all right, well, thank you so much. Have a good night. See ya.